Back in 1833, the U.S. Army established its first official mounted units, known as the 1st and 2nd Dragoons. These troops rode into combat but would dismount to fight on foot, laying the foundation for what became the United States cavalry. Before that, the nation relied mostly on state and local mounted militias, which were often issued older or surplus weapons. This was in line with the Militia Act of 1808, which aimed to arm and equip all militia forces across the country. Many of these units used sabers pulled from government stockpiles, including around 20,000 sabers made by Nathan Starr under contracts dating from 1812 to 1818, with the last deliveries arriving in 1822. For many years, these sabers served as the main weapon of American mounted troops. Between 1834 and 1839, the U.S. government placed orders with the N.P. Ames Company for 6,100 sabers modeled after the British pattern, 1822 Light Cavalry Officer's Saber. These American-made blades would become known as the Model 1833 Dragoon Sabers, marking an early chapter in the arming of U.S. mounted forces. Interestingly, the U.S. Ordnance Board approved the design, even though the British military had raised concerns about its performance after years of service. Not long after the sabers were distributed, American cavalrymen began reporting similar issues from the field. Despite the blade's sleek and elegant appearance, troops found it too light and poorly suited for effective thrusting. Additionally, the scabbard dented and bent easily, serious flaws for soldiers who depended on reliable weapons in combat. The 1833 Dragoon Saber underwent weight adjustments by Ames mid-production, increasing from 13.5 to 19.5 ounces. Interestingly, this change didn't involve altering the 34-inch blade, but the scabbard was lengthened by an inch, from 35 inches to 36, for reasons that remain unclear. Though it didn't meet all expectations for durability, the 1833 Dragoon Saber was a well-crafted weapon. It featured a polished brass hilt with a knuckle bow, dual-branch guard, and a pommel topped with a recessed, slotted nut that made field replacement of broken blades more manageable. The handles for enlisted personnel featured black leather wrapping secured with 7 spirals of braided brass wire. Along with the manufacturing years 1834 to 1840, blades bore the markings NPAMES, Cutler, Springfield. A U.S. sub-inspector's initials were stamped near the ricasso, just below the guard, and in many cases, the saber hilt and scabbard drag were also marked with ORD to indicate acceptance by the Ordnance Department. On sabers issued to enlisted men, the blade markings were engraved using a dry needle technique in a slanted, open-style script. These typically included either the phrase United States or the less common United States Dragoons, both framed by a laurel leaf design. Officer sabers, on the other hand, featured acid-etched designs, brass hilts finished with gilt, and grips wrapped in sharkskin and wire. Steel sheaths were equipped with slender ring bands that split apart similar to today's key rings, along with widening trumpet-form throats. In addition to the sabers made for the U.S. Dragoons, the Ames Company also produced 1833 Dragoon Sabers for several states that either ordered them through the Ordnance Department or bought them outright. Among the receiving states were Massachusetts, North Carolina, and South Carolina, while Georgia and Pennsylvania are presumed to have obtained sabers matching this pattern. The Republic of Texas placed its own order as well, 280 sabers for enlisted troops and 18 for officers. Eventually, the 1833 model was replaced by a newer, heavier saber based on a French design, the Model 1840 Cavalry Saber. Even so, the 1833 Dragoon Saber holds the distinction of being the first standard-issue cavalry saber adopted by the U.S. military and is still recognized as an important piece of American cavalry history.